NPT is part of, Larry, this whole process of sending experts to Iran to see the facilities, nuclear facilities, and to verify everything. This was a huge security problem for Iran for such a long time. They will recognize the scientists.
And we made it that way. I mean, we put agents on the team. We got the director to be our person. When he wasn't our person, we agitated to get him removed and put another one in there. I mean, it's clear the IAEA was acting on behalf of the empire most of the time. I'm not saying all the time, and I'm not saying all the people were corrupt, but I am saying key ones were, and we made sure they were so that the decision would always be positive for us.
Larry, the problem for Donald Trump is not right now what's going on in the Persian Gulf, in my opinion, is what's going on between Israel and Lebanon. That's why, everything is happening in that region. That's why Iran reacted to what Israel wanted to do in Dahia, in southern part of Beirut. This is so important. This is the first time you see Iran coming out and saying to Israel, if you attack Lebanon, we're going to do the same to the northern part of Israel. This is huge, in my opinion, from the Iranian point of view. And how is that going to change? How is that going to come to the calculation or to the equation of Washington?
Well, clearly it has inspired Donald Trump to pick the phone up and have a conversation, I guess we'll call it, with Bibi Netanyahu. And, a lot of people dismissed the Axios report, understandably, because the author of it has a track record of being a shill and mouthpiece for propaganda. But if it was propaganda, Trump didn't leave him hanging. He kept trying to I had a tough conversation with Bibi, so he basically admitted it. And you're correct, Nima, that since Iran was created, it formed itself as a Islamic Republic 47 years ago, and during the last, we've had, it came into being after the whole civil war in Lebanon started. The civil war in Lebanon started in 1975. So at no time in that 47-year history until now did Iran directly speak up and say, okay, if you don't stop attacking, we're going to attack you. And so that's a game changer, I think, because it highlights the fact that Iran feels quite comfortable and confident in its ability to deliver on its threat. And while Israel may have been reluctant to believe it, they still finally listened to Trump. Whether they did it willingly or not, I don't know. But all we know is that the threats that were being made, particularly these madmen, these monsters, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, about leveling, flattening Dahia, an entire suburb of Beirut, they've been quiet. And again, this is, this piece of information that Pepe and I dropped, was it intended for manipulation? No, I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes now that is out of the ordinary, and as a result, we're starting to see, there was at least a cessation of the bombing attacks on Beirut. That stopped so far. Knock on wood. It has, but this agreement that Washington put out the other day. This is just another example of a stupid gesture. That's happened before over the last 50 odd years that this war has been, 51 years that this civil war in Lebanon has been underway. Yeah, if you want an end to it, you got to sit Hezbollah at the table too. They got to be part of that negotiation. And if they're not part of that negotiation, you don't have a deal. And so the Trump administration can delude themselves that, we've got They're now, the Lebanese army is going to force Hezbollah out. Good luck with that. 40% of their army is Shia, okay? They've got brothers and cousins and fathers and uncles that are Hezbollah fighters. Ain't going to happen. So this is, let's call it, it's sort of a step in the right direction, but until Hezbollah is fully engaged in the process, Hezbollah is going to continue beating the hell out of the Israelis.
Yeah. There's another thing that Alistair talked about that I agree with 100%, that Hassan Nasrallah was very respected in Iran. And if you wanted to talk about influence, his influence on Iran was probably more powerful than their influence on him. And what did Israel do with him? Probably the most astute politician in Beirut. Killed him.
Well, yeah, and on that point, some have commented, well, did Trump talk to Hezbollah? I said, Hezbollah is not going to talk to Donald Trump, at least directly. There will only be indirect communication because they learned their lesson. What the United States and Israel did in the death of Nasrallah was the United States was talking to Nasrallah about getting him involved, helping with the ceasefire. And that meeting that took place where he was killed was entirely in response to a U.S. request. The United States used the communications with him to geolocate him so he could be killed. That's what happened. And Hezbollah has figured that out. So they go, we're not stupid. You got us once, but we're not going to do that again. So this is, I think we're in a new phase where the United States is discovering the limits of its power.
Colonel, what is the reality between Israel and Lebanon, which is in terms of casualties, in terms of the weapons or air defense systems that are getting hit by drones? It's something, as you've seen, you've watched Alistair Crook mentioned, and it's something like 8 to 10 casualties every day.
I think he's right, and I think basically Netanyahu is doing everything that he can to hide that from the Israeli people. The casualties, both WIA and KIA, are quite high. And in fact, I think they're probably as high as any in this conflagration of wars that Israel's involved in right now. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any surcease there, because if they keep moving north, if they go to the next river, for example, if they go back to attacking Beirut again, which I think is inevitable, then they're just going to grow. So that's pressure on Netanyahu, too, from the forces on the ground, because they want to do certain things to limit that, to cut them a little bit. And he's not going to let them do it in the way they want to do it, because he's trying to walk both dogs at the same time, convince Trump that he's not doing what he's doing, and at the same time doing what he's doing. This is a really difficult place for him to be. And I think what's happening politically, of course, as you know, in Israel, is his opponents are saying he's not doing enough, and even saying that he is kowtowing to the American president.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't if they were elected. That's the insinuation anyway. He's really between a rock and a hard place right now. Damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. And he'll pick the one that damns him the least, both personally and politically, I think.